Hi, I'm Steve Fowler, President of the Board of the Occidental Center for the Arts, and I'm here with one of our board members and one of the most important volunteers who's helped build the center, Diane Masura. Hello, Diane.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good. And we've been talking about the past, going back to the time when Diane was also on the board of the Occidental Center for the Occidental Community Choir, which she founded in 1979 and which is still going. Was 79, wasn't it?
That was our first concert.
What she was recreating for me was a scene in Doris Murphy's house. Doris Murphy being the moving force behind the creation of the Occidental Center for the Arts, where Diane had been doing some tile work. She's a very fine tile artist, I would say.
Thank you.
And she and Diane, were you having an adult beverage after?
Oh, yes. Well, after I finished tiling for the day, we sat out on her patio and she opened a bottle of wine and we started sharing our interests and our concerns in the community. And I had shared with her that how difficult it was to be a community choir, not religiously affiliated, but having to sing in the churches because it was the only venue in town that was large enough to seat people, and the acoustics were agreeable.
They were particularly good in the white
community
church that was the Protestant church.
That's right. The community church, and of course there was naturally confusion about the community choir and the community church. But
partly because the pastor of that church was in the choir.
Well, actually it's an interesting story. They were rehearsing in my living room, which you know is a small cabin.
Yeah.
And we outgrew it. And I was looking for a place and was at the post office, and Reverend Heath said, well, we don't use the church on Wednesday night. Why don't you use the church? And I want to join your choir.
Oh my gosh. Lyndon Heath.
Lyndon Heath, he was
good tenor.
Good man.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we...
That's how the Wednesday night thing started too,
That's how it started, yeah.
Great.
And but unfortunately, we wanted to sing whatever we wrote, and sometimes it didn't fit in with some of the points of view that the churches held.
Right.
And so we kind of bounced between the community church and St. Philip's Catholic Church, depending on who we upset the most.
We're compressing a lot of time here.
We are, so years. Well,
and years.
Years and years.
And then also St. Dorothy's Rest, we were up there for a while.
Oh, we were there for a while.
Anderson Hall.
Anderson Hall, we tried them all.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And finally, in talking to Doris Murphy, we came to this vision. Well, let's have a home for the artists and the musicians in our community. There really wasn't one, and so. And
Doris was had her ears open.
Oh yes.
And she was an organizer.
Yes.
And so off it went. Huh?
Off it went, and so I was at some of the earliest meetings. I would say it was probably 3 or 4 years after the organization came together, and then you invited me on the board in 2008, I believe. So it's been about
well, that's really rushing through
5 years.
I know you were talking about a meeting in 2003 or so, where the community was asked to get together at the community center, and that's where I first heard about all of this, and. Then a year later, there was a meeting at the old Harmony School multipurpose room with Orrin Thiessen and Terry there, saying, "Well, we've bought the school and we're going to do a residential commercial development here, and would you guys like to launch an art center here?" And here are some giant pads of paper, and you can write your ideas down, and we'll form a board. And so I showed up at the board formation early in January of 2005. And that wasn't the first board. There was another board. Of course, it had been incorporated back in 2000 or 1999 and as a nonprofit, so there'd always been a board up to that point. Every nonprofit has to have one, as the Occidental Choir has found out.
Yes.
And I know you've been president of that board. So we're all sort of veterans of several campaigns. But
yeah, it was interesting because I had been a tile setter, you know, when I was invited into the board at first, I think it was because of the choir, for the anchor, being an anchor tenant.
Yes.
There.
Very much so.
And then it turned out I got involved in the facility committee of rebuilding the structure to make it function as an art center, and my tiling skills came in handy.
Well, now I just learned, Diane, that you have studied engineering as well.
Yes, for 2 years.
In back in
University of Michigan in Ann Arbor.
Because you come from Detroit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And my daughter went to school at Harmony, and she wanted to produce a piece at the Art Center that would advance the consciousness of the community into being more acceptant of the change.
Right.
Yeah, and so it all came together in that way. And
well, let me build a little context. The Harmony School had been a grammar school in Occidental from the 50s up until the early 2000s, and had lost so many students. The demographic had changed that the campus was sold to a developer, Orrin Thiessen, who then gifted this arts organization with the multipurpose room and an adjoining classroom. So we're up to about 2009 in the narrative, and we're trying like crazy to go through the construction process with Orrin, and your daughter Nadja comes to the board with a proposal to do a vast collection of the Harmony reminiscences, the yearbooks, and video interviews, and bringing the teachers back and talking to them, and then producing this.
This site-specific theater, live
specifically
theater.
Because the community still hadn't accepted the fact that the school had gone away.
Exactly. And so I think I'm not sure exactly when I became chair of the partnering committee, and my task was to inform the community what we were about, where we were, what we were going to do, and to coordinate and collaborate and cooperate with the other community entities. And so this was perfect for me. And I did notice that when I began, there was a lot of hurt feelings about the school going away, a lot of misinformation, a lot of confusion about the necessity of an art center in town, that it was not really necessary.
Right.
And
could be a bunch of elitist hippies
elitist
down there.
Or you know, whatever their fears were. And so I've enjoyed the position on the partnering committee because I've gotten to meet the community and facilitate the connection between the different entities.
Well, and the board is grateful because it's not easy to go to all those public meetings that you've been going to. Like, for instance, the water board meetings and the community council meetings. Because meetings with volunteer organizations can be lengthy and sometimes obstreperous. And but you know, now it occurs to me it's sort of a family thing. I mean, because Nadja was trying to create this interface with the community through Remembering Harmony, and now you're on the partnering chairman. You're doing the same, really the same work.
And it's almost come full circle now that we're going to be doing more activities with the new school. And linking them back to the art centers.
Right, and offering classes perhaps to children, because we now have been able to purchase some more space, just about double our space.
Right. Actually, I think I met you first through the choir. You were, when did you join the choir?
Well, you know, Diane, you were, I go back a ways with the Detroit Pond Company because of Cy Weissman.
Right.
So I was a gardener, and Cy started something called FOG, Farmers Organic Group. Now, when was that?
Oh boy, Nadja was maybe born about then, so be 40 years ago.
Yeah. So I knew Weiss, and I knew about and you were sort of around that group, and I don't remember actually meeting you. Tell the choir in 1979, but
I think you were you a president of an alternative school?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those were the days, huh?
Well, yeah. Farm Home School and then Redwood School. And we thought that the public school system was inadequate. And so we started our own school, which was way below adequate. And, but we struggled along with that. And then our kids started saying, you know, I'd like to ride that big yellow bus and sit at a desk and have a real pencil, and you know, and Harmony School was changing at that point enough so that, well, we went down there and we said, look, can we do more classroom participation with the parents and stuff?
Have an alternative program
and then they developed an alternative program.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
I remember.
Which went strong for 4 or 5 years. Randy Sequeira was one of the teachers, and
Arjun Singh too.
Arjun Singh, with his turban.
Yeah.
He's interviewed on Nadja's tape. It's a wonderful interview.
He was her favorite teacher, I think.
Yeah, he's a really, really fine person. So now, bringing it back up to the current period, Diane, you're still on the board of the not of the choir. I think you got.
They got a title for me. They call it President Emeritus.
President Emeritus of the Occidental
Which
Community
means
Choir.
I don't vote, but I can go shoot my mouth off if I want to.
Well, you've earned it. You've paid your dues, and you've paid your dues at the Art Center. Not only by doing all this community work, but by retiling the bathrooms where we had to tear into the floor, doing some tiling in the front around our paving project, where we sell pavers for people who want to have a little memorial for somebody, or we just want to say something like, one paver has nothing but an exclamation point. And you've enhanced that, and you've written songs for the choir. So I think it's still fair to say that almost everybody involved in the Occidental Center for the Arts is an artist.
Yeah,
and
of varied, such a variety within the, like Patrick is a painter and a writer and writes music and does all of these things. You know, it's amazing how multi-talented so many of the people out there are.
And they can pick up a hammer and a saw and
they don't mind.
and build the Art Center pretty much from scratch with very little money.
Yes.
And so we're proud to have this facility going full bore now. I don't know when this show is going to air, but tonight there's a swing dance with Out of the Blue, and then next weekend there's the second of our indie film series on Friday night with a long song from Mongolia, a brand new film, and the filmmaker will be there. And then on the 22nd, Patrick Fanning's book launch and his wonderful new book, Infidels Abroad, and on and on. We have a Buddhist comedian coming. I can hardly wait for that. Maybe he just sits there and wiggles his eyebrows. You know, I don't know, but or maybe it's a she. I don't really know.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, yeah. So diversity is the name of the game at the Art Center. We call it a home for all the arts.
I bought one of those pavers and I put on art in the community and community and art. And I think the artist community is really bonded in our area now. They have a home to focus on.
Yeah, and I recently heard that there are 22,000 artists in Sonoma County.
Oh my goodness.
That's enough to populate Healdsburg and Sebastopol single-handedly, I think. And I'm hoping that someday the Art Center, which is embedded in a residential community, will attract artists who can afford to live there.
Yes.
So that we do get an art, we kind of get an art community. Now, we've only been there since 2004, so 8 years, but really only been open since 2010.
That's right.
When the construction process ended, and Orrin was able to actually give us title. So in 3 years, we're just in our infancy.
That's right.
And now the units around us have all been sold, and there are there's a whole community of people moving in. And that's a very diverse community too.
It is, and I think the community, I'm safe in saying that they really see the center as part of the community now and a contributor to the well-being of the residents there in that area.
Yeah, I agree. And so, and then across the street at the community center, the Carol Hart of Regional Parks is talking about improving the community center, turning it into some kind of a gateway to the West County. And so it turns out we're in a very good location.
We're well situated
for the future.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the bad part of it is that you and I have put in already all these years, and there's no way out.
That's
you know. I mean, do you have a strategy? How are you going to get off the board? How we couldn't do it without you.
You could be president emeritus of the OCA board, and you could come and, you know, express opinions and just go home and relax.
Well, that's a board meeting. That happens once a month.
Oh, that's true.
The rest of the time, there's janitorial stuff. You know what it's like.
Yeah.
I mean, you're down there almost every day.
I know. Well, we could maybe get smarter about getting our volunteers, getting more volunteers.
No, the way it works is that eventually you get to the point where you can afford a full-time executive director. And
in this economy, that may be a little way off.
It's a way off.
Yeah.
It is. Our employee now, Candace Mackey, who's doing a wonderful job.
She is
really not even a half-time. I would say she's maybe a third of a 40-hour week. Something like 15 hours a week or something. But she gets a lot done, but she's not there every day, and seems like something comes up almost all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody needs to be, you have to go let somebody in right now.
It's our baby, we have to watch it.
That's right, that's right. Is there anything you'd
like
to reminisce about?
Speaking for the choir, if I can be so bold.
You may.
I would just say that at rehearsals, we're so grateful for that space to rehearse in, to perform in. This spring we have another concert series coming up called Heaven and Earth, and all of the music written has a theme in it about that, some of it very comical, some of it poignant, and the space is wonderful. And we could say that your daughter is our music director now. We could. Sarah Salisbury, I'm very proud of that. And Sarah joined the choir when she was 15. There's a lineage there, and she's doing a fine job. And it's a pleasure to be in the bass section, as I know you're in the soprano section. And those, do you know the dates of the concert series? Oh boy. It's early May, in any way. It's the first 2 weeks of May. And there's a website, isn't there? Yes, occidentalcommunitychoir.org. And I was going to say most of the concerts will be performed at OCA. We do give a free concert every year to Friend's House in Santa Rosa, and we will have a Mother's Day concert at the Glazer Center here in Santa Rosa too. So, but it is we are the home of the Occidental Community Choir. We're very proud of that.
we're the home of the Redwood Arts Council, which is a chamber music series. And I'm trying to remember their website. Redwood Arts.
That's right.
RedwoodArts.com, I think it is. And of course, you have to put 3 W's in front of all those. But who does that anymore? So the Occidental Center for the Arts is at occidentalcenterforthearts.org, and then the choir is occidentalcommunitychoir.org, and then you have the Redwood Arts Council, Redwood Arts. That's on the web as well. And so we're producing a lot of cultural events in the West County in Occidental, and I want to say thank you, Diane, for all the work you've done there.
You too, Steve.
Okay.